Welcome back everyone. It is time to create some camera animations for this level. Now if you haven't created camera animations before, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to show you the basics of the sequencer tool in Unreal Engine so that you can get started from completely no experience to creating any sort of level of difficulty camera animation that you'd like to. So to start us off for a camera animation, we're actually going to need a camera. So to do that, go into the place mode and search for a camera. Once you're ready, click, drag it into the scene, and now you have it. Now find some sort of starting point for whichever shot you'd like to make. I think I want to start my shot back here, looking towards the sand, and prototype a few shots before you actually go and make them. Maybe run through in the perspective mode, and you can use your mouse wheel to adjust the speed. And then just look around and see how you'd like to do it. I think this is kind of a cool thing here. Just a turn, maybe not that much. If we can do that. I think I like that a lot better. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to start the camera right here. And so to do that, I'm going to press this camera actor and right click on it. Press snap object to view, and now you can see the camera actor in here. Now what I'm going to do now is open up another viewport that I can see the camera's view through. To do that, go to Window, Viewports, and Viewport 2. Now it's going to pop up another viewport, so drag it to this side of this window and snap it right there. You're going to have a toolbar open, and what I'm going to have you do is click right here and turn on Grid 3x3 so that you can see the help for the composition. And then click on this arrow and click on Show Toolbar, and now that will go away because you don't really need that to show. You can also uncheck Show Stats because you don't need that in this window. And now, if you like, you can go ahead and open up this sequencer. To do that, go up to Window and down to Sequencer. Here it is. Great. Now go under Cinematics, click this drop down arrow and choose Add Level Sequence. Click Save. And here it is. Now, this is a sequencer, and this is very similar to Blender's animation tool, if you've used that before. Essentially, you have a timeline, and you have keyframes. And keyframes specify one value at one frame, and then another value at another frame. And then the software will automatically generate all the other frames between those 2 points. And so, let's go ahead and add a track, and choose Actor to Sequencer, and then choose your camera actor. Great. Now we can see exactly where that's coming from. If you'd like to change the start and end frame, you can use these right here. Right now it's set to 0 and 150, which is a fine length in my opinion. And something else I'm going to have you do is click up here and choose camera actor. And so now this window will be synced up to the camera. Great. So now you can move this window around. Alright, get rid of that. Now let's get started. I want to have my footage move side from there and then up and look towards the rocks like this. So it looks like I want my camera to end up right here. And so now that I've got my animation at frame 1, I'm going to go down to Transform, and I'm going to keyframe the location and the rotation right there by clicking on these icons. Now, in case you missed that, in your sequencer, go under your camera actor, go under Transform, and press this button for location and rotation to keyframe it. Now I'm going to go forward up to 120 frames, and I'm going to snap the camera. I'm going to first, I think we're going to stop it right here. Okay, so here I'm going to right click the camera actor again and snap the object to view. And then I'm going to lock the location right there, keyframe that is. so that if we go and play this back, this is the motion that we have for that. I'm just gonna play it and see what we have. Excellent. And now we're going to mess with the rotation. So for this portion, I think I'd like the camera to rotate downwards. So I'm just going to mess with the physical rotation for that, and then press this button to add a keyframe. And then as we move here, that's kind of a weird shadow, so I want to move our camera out of the view of that. I'm going to move it still facing down a bit, and we'll keyframe that rotation. Now as we get up here, that is where I'm going to want that kind of rotation. Very good. And now as we move further in, I'm just going to rotate us a little more upwards. And a little to the side. And we'll keyframe that rotation. So if we play it, that's what we got. Seems to move a little fast. And I think that rotation may be a little off. So I'm going to adjust this right here. I'm actually just going to click on that one and delete it. I think I want this to move back, this to move down much further. Yes, I like that a lot more. I really like that a lot more, so I'm going to play this. Very good. Now I'm going to extend the frames out a little more. I want this to be probably 10 seconds. By default, this is going to be 30 frames per second. And so you can click on these, by the way, to scale your view out of the sequencer. So let's see, I need this to be 300. It appears that it doesn't want to snap exactly where I tell it to. So make sure that you can see the entire view. You can use these numbers for this. I'm going to start this at frame 0, and there we go, up to 300. So now I'm going to select all of these by shift clicking on them. And okay, so I'm going to tough decision. I think I'm just going to select these and drag them all the way to the end, and then just position these and eyeball it. All right. So now we have this slow, smooth motion. I like that. I do. That is quite nice. But from there, I'd like it to continue moving forward just a little bit. So I'm going to extend the animation a little more. I'm going to extend our view range to 500. I'm going to extend this to at least 450. And then from there, I'm going to move us out to 450. And move this camera forward a bit. Keyframe location. And just to keep us engaged and interested, I'm going to keyframe the rotation as well right there. I'm also going to mess with the rotation a little bit and keyframe a few more, just to have some sort of like a bob effect. how's that look? Looks a little jarring as is, so I'm going to spread them out a little more. I like it. Let's see it like this. Now, the problem here, there's a problem with the exposure here, so I'm going to turn down the brightness and the exposure. The max brightness is just a little too high, so I'm going to turn it down to 1. I'm going to turn it down to 0.8. Enter. Now if we look at that, and I want us to be able to see the footprints, so I'm going to make sure that we're on a screen percentage of 200. Very good. Okay, this max brightness is still way too much. I need it to be brought down. Now, that looks all right. Now that dip is a little too much. That is a little too much right there. So I'm going to have to work with that. I'm going to bring it back up on the X. That looks alright. Let's see how it plays. That looks pretty good. That looks very good. Okay. So that's going to be one of my cinematic shots here. Very nice, very nice. And then now, let's go over how to export something like this. I may want to work with the atmospheric fog actually just a little bit. I think the atmosphere is a little strong for this specific shot, so I'm just going to mess with it a little bit for this. Okay, now I want to work with the light source here. I think I'm gonna work with the temperature a little bit, because we can always stand a slightly warmer temperature. Not too warm. Okay, I think that will be just fine. Okay, so this is what we'd be working with. It's nice, but I want it to swoop closer to the sand. So this keyframe right here, I'm going to, well, that was not the camera. This keyframe right here, I'm going to bring it way closer. I'm going to, let's see, that's not going to save, so I'm going to have to zoom in a bit here. Let's make sure I'm right on the dot. Okay. Now for this, it's going to be brought in much closer. And then I'm going to keyframe the location again, right there. Oh, that's nice. That is nice. I definitely encourage lots of experimentation with this kind of thing, because then you get nice things like that. Very cool. You can also mess with the field of view when you're keyframing. So for instance, I could bring my field of view way out. Oh my goodness, don't do that though. Out will give you this effect, and we'll give you this effect. So a closer field of view is going to... Okay, so maybe you slowly bring in the field of view a little bit towards the end. I don't think I'm actually going to mess with this for mine, but you can create some pretty cool dramatic shots if you do. So I'm just going to stick with how it is. I do want to bring the location down on my first sweep. So I'm going to make sure I'm on the right keyframe first of all. Looks like I need to be on 1. It does look like I need to be on 1. Okay, so I'm going to get on 1, and I'm going to bring us down a little bit, and I'm going to keyframe the location again, so that if we swoop, don't go into the ground, please, and it's clean. Good. So I'm going to go all the way to the front and play it. Now the only problem here is that we can't see any of the water. We can fix that pretty easily, I believe. So I'm just going to bring us out a little further and maybe slightly higher. I don't need it to be too high, but I want to see some water. This should be fine. I'm gonna go, oh shoot. Gotta go to frame 1 here and bring us out to the water. I also have to make sure that I don't end up in the ground on our second frame. So this should be fine. I'm gonna keyframe the location there. And golden. So gotta turn this back on, make sure rock is in the center here. If we play it, very, very nice. So I say we test it out. First of all, let's get a little bit of... Ah, yes. So you may need to adjust post-processing for the camera itself. Just a heads up. So rendering features, miscellaneous. Ah, yes. That was the problem. Now if I go back here. Yep, higher resolution. Okay, so I'm going to turn on ray tracing for global illumination for the camera. I'm going to turn up the bounces by 1. And then ambient occlusion will also be ray traced. And post-process material. That looks good to me. As far as image effects, I'm going to turn these on just a bit. Now let's render this out. Looks like we're getting a few lens flares right there. I'll play it one more time. That's cool. That's kind of a cool effect. So if I bring this to immersive view, we can see a little more of this. So if I play it, we can see each individual frame here. definitely looks nice. I think I'm going to turn off the chromatic aberration just for the sake of this shot. So where are we with that chromatic aberration? Turn the intensity down to 0. I just don't really need it. Now I'm going to bring this one back to immersive mode. And it's looking nice. May want to go in and add some rock between the hillside and the sand. I'd say overall this is working pretty well. Now I'm going to bring this back. Okay, now it's time to export this. So the way you're going to do that is click this, render this movie to a video or image frame sequence. You're going to choose your format, choose audio, choose your resolution. I'm going to go with 1080 for mine. And then as far as compression, you can mess with that. And then you can also choose your output directory. And with that, you can go ahead and click capture movie once you're ready. Save your level. And here we go. Up here we've got a movie render preview going. And just in a second it'll start running through the animation. Maybe it won't in very high frame rates, but it's going to keep going. And then once it's done, you'll be able to go find it. And real fast before you export, make sure that you collapse your camera actor for a second. And then under camera cuts, you're going to want to extend this cut all the way to the end, because otherwise it's going to drop off right in the center and snap it to some weird position. So once you've done that, now we can click render movie, and every setting should be the same still. And it looks good, so I'm going to click capture movie, save the level, and now it's going to start going. So it's always good to be monitoring this as it's happening, especially if you have one of those longer animations, because you wouldn't want to render the entire thing out only to find that something went wrong midway through, and then you have to re-render the entire thing, especially if you've got multiple shots. So I do need to build my lighting, but that's okay. I only need to build it for the tree area. But I do want to preview this before I go ahead and build lighting, because it's still going to be pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to check it out in the folder here. Alright, let's see this. Very good. Does it live up to the resolution though? Because it doesn't appear that it is. And that is no good. Maybe the compression is too much, because I don't think that is 1080. Alright, so we've got a couple things to fix. First of all, we need to build the lighting, so I'm going to click build. I'm just going to start doing that. And then we may have to fix if anything goes wrong with the build, which is fine. Alright, we've got our baked lighting. So let's check it out in the sequence here. Now the main problem that I'm seeing here is this strange shadowing on the tree. It's quite bizarre. It appears that it is there whether we have the tree there or not. So that's the only thing that I'm going to keep unbuilt, is this tree. And then as far as other problems, we can go back and reference the... As far as other problems, we need to figure out the resolution. So I'm going to bring this down to 100% screen. just to make sure nothing is going strangely. So let's see here. To be honest, I'm not sure what the problem is. We may need to reduce the resolution in the normal post-processing volume. That might be causing a problem, but other than that, it should be working just fine. I'm not going to use compression, or I'm going to use compression, but I'm going to use 100% quality. I'm also going to try to bring this up to 4K resolution, just to see if I see any difference in quality, and we can always use a third-party compressor. So with that, just go ahead and capture the movie, and it's going to save the level always, and that's a good thing. And then it's going to start going on the render, and looks like it's going to start there. That looks 4K to me. That certainly looks 4K to me in the preview, but we never know what's going to end up happening as it goes on. So I'll come back when this is done rendering, and then we can move on to any further shots that we want to do, or any further changes that we want to make. So I'll see you then. Looks like it rendered out perfectly, and I'll be using that in the promotional for this course. And with that, I hope this was informative to you, and now you know how to create any kind of cinematic shot for your level to showcase, or maybe to use in a cutscene or some story dialogue. So however you want to use it, now you can, and you're ready to move on to the next section, where we're going to be talking about Quixel Mixer, which is another Quixel product, and I've found it to be very helpful. So once you're ready to do that, go ahead and move on to the next lecture.